all of our friends and supporters out there to our live podcast, Never Again Live. Whoever is watching, I encourage you, please share this on whatever social media platform you use. We'll reach a lot more people. I'm joined with Mayor Jolovitz. We go back years from the JDL, and Meir Jolovitz is an expert analyst about Mideast politics, in particular Israel, what affects Israel. And what we're going to be discussing tonight is the President Trump's peace committee for Gaza, where he is inviting the Qataris, Erdogan from Turkey. He's inviting people who hate Israel to be on this committee, and he's got a plan for Gaza. And we're not entirely sure what that plan is, but the more we start reading into it, the more very bad it sounds for the state of Israel. Mayor, you've been reading a lot on this. Information is coming quickly through the internet. Statements from Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner and others, and Senator Lindsey Graham. Mayor, what do you make of this committee that Trump is setting up, and making public statements, in fact, against Israel, saying, the Iron Dome, it was all American, discounting any involvement from Israel. What's going on here?
Thank you. In anticipation of my doing this with you, and I think we try to limit it to 15 minutes, I spent quite a number of hours today just dealing with some of the principles that we're talking about, the nations that have invited to be part of this Board of Peace, which I will make fun of in a second, the principal players in trying to negotiate a settlement in the Middle East. As you mentioned, Steve Witkoff, the U.S. envoy to the Middle East, Jared Kushner, Donald Trump himself, with the comments that he made where he, in essence, scolded Bibi for taking credit for Israel having developed the Iron Dome, which it did. It was financed by the Americans, and all kinds of things, and his taking credit for peace in the Middle East and all that type of thing. I have some notes because I transcribed some of it just so I can make reference to it. And even as I talk, the clock ticks. And I'll say I've limited to about 7 hours. So I'm going to try and truncate 7 hours worth of material into 7 minutes. I just want to say this. You mentioned, if ever there was a misnomer, and there have been many in the Middle East, if there's ever been a misnomer, it's the whole notion of peace partners, peace conferences. This notion, this Trump's Board of Peace, is one of the worst. It's just a complete misnomer. It has the notion of peace in the Middle East is laughable, and we've seen it before. And we had good, well-intentioned people who believed in it. They believed in Oslo. They believed in all the other. There were people who believed, including people who sit with Likud. Someone by the name of Bibi Netanyahu, who believed that disengagement could work. The unilateral disengagement. When I look at the list, I've got the entire list of all the nations. You mentioned some, so I won't go into detail, but you mentioned Turkey, Qatar, Jordan, Pakistan. What is Pakistan doing? And Indonesia, Saudi Arabia. What is Pakistan? Let me just stop there. Doing, deciding, being an arbitrator, an honest broker about the way that peace should be realized in Gaza. And it's interesting that because this is it's a long list of nations which don't recognize Israel's right to exist.
Yep.
And other nations, every other one, which believe in a two-state solution. And as I think I mentioned before, it's almost laughable to say that the few nations that don't believe in the two-state solution don't believe in it because one of those two nations is Israel. So they don't believe in a two-state solution because they don't believe Israel. So we've got this fraudulent Board of Peace. I want to mention a comment, as you'd mentioned. Lindsey Graham today came out with a tweet on X in which he was quite critical of Steve Witkoff, who basically said, and I want to present some of it, 4 points, which if the Iranians, going to Iran now, if the Iranians somehow self-police, that there's no reason worldwide they shouldn't be invited to be part of the family of nations as part of this greater peace. It's
Right.
laughable. So Lindsey Graham came out with a very strong thing, and he began, and forgive me, I'm just looking, he said, I was unnerved by statements being made by people, in this case, Steve Witkoff, involved in the Iran files, suggesting that if the Ayatollah would only change his mind, there would be peace in the Middle East, including him. And he goes on to basically say, anyone who believes that the Ayatollah could actually self-reform would be the same idiot who believed that Hitler could be asked to just, can you please change your opinion about Jews and what have you. It was a very, very strong and necessary condemnation by Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, against Steve Witkoff. And yet, it doesn't take much research for you to go back. And I found two tweets that Graham posted in the past. One was April 15th on X. The other one was June 12th on X of this 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is. I completely agree with Special Envoy Steve, who's doing a wonderful job. And a second one, Steve Witkoff is spot on. I appreciate all his endeavors and his efforts. So here it is. We have Lindsey Graham, certainly a friend of Israel's, absolutely a friend of Israel's. No different than Trump is a friend of Israel, so not be misunderstood. And yet
Right.
they're naive. I dare use the word as I do in my lecture. They are stupid. They're stupid. I go back and I reach back further. And again, Lindsey Graham is one of the best friends Israel has verbally in the Senate. And here it is. I'm pulling out two articles. The one dated December of 2023. So we're talking about after October 7th.
Right.
And the headline is, Lindsey Graham says Israel must accept a two-state solution in order to normalize ties with the Saudis. And I could go into detail, but time doesn't allow, in which he says Israel needs to come to terms with it. Here's another one. This is November 1st, almost 2 years later, November 1st, 2025, talking about 2 months ago. The headline, Lindsey Graham tells the Jerusalem Post, annexation by Israel would cost Israel U.S. support. Two states is the only solution. So these are our allies. These are our friends. These are our allies. Pakistan, you've got Qatar, you've got Egypt, all these nations which are hostile to Israel. And the counterbalance are people like Lindsey Graham, once again, a good guy who has told us twice in the last whatever, that listen, Israel, there's not, you might as well come to terms with the fact the two-state solution. It's absolutely absurd. I have, here it is, the four conditions which, and I'll rush, the four conditions which just today, Steve Witkoff came out and basically said, if the Iranians would simply police themselves on 1, nuclear enrichment, 2, ballistic missiles, and of ballistic missiles, he said, all they have to do is cut back. Mind you, listen to the language. This is a special envoy, and he says all they've got to do is cut back on the what do you cut back? Cut back on the number of missiles that the Iranians have. 3, that they have to curb the existing stockpile of enriched nuclear materials, which, and one could obviously do an entire show. Wait, we were told in June 25th that the United States destroyed that they weren't a threat anymore. And all of a sudden now the United States is saying, Iran, if you want to play game, you can't continue. And the fourth one was the Iranians have to stop supporting these proxies. And obviously we're talking about Hezbollah, which is still around, Hamas, which is still around, the Houthis, which have been silenced, but they're still around. And so you ask yourself, if the people who ostensibly represent the pro-Israel advocacy side, if they're the ones who actually believe that if the Ayatollah would simply self-police, that everything, as to use the language used by Steve Witkoff, he said they would be welcome back in the League of Nations. Now, League of Nations, he's talking about league with a small L and nations with a small L. The family of nations is what he suggests. And the takeaway from all this is we have some idiots some world-class idiots who are running the show. Your opinion and my opinion is it doesn't exist. They're the ones who run the show. And no wonder the Egyptians, the Turks, the Indonesians, the Pakistanis were so quick to rush and say, we'll be part of the Gaza peace efforts. Bibi Netanyahu, who's joined as well, and some people said he joined so that there might at least be one voice which represents the position that you and I articulate. He misses the point. The same way that Israel joined the Oslo Accords, it gave sanction to the Oslo Accords. And Bibi, as much as he thinks he might be a foil against these nations, hijacking this Gaza board of peace, what a joke. In essence, what he's done is he's actually granting it a certain measure of legitimacy and sanction. And that is a terrible, terrible thing.
What's the reaction from members of the Israeli government to this? Let's say Itamar Ben-Gvir, Smotrich. What are people saying in Israel?
The right wing in Israel, and we have to be very careful because there's also there's a misrepresentation of what the right wing really is. Most publications, certainly in America, certainly anyone who isn't really pro-Israel, considers, for example, Likud to be right wing, extreme right wing. They've described this as the most extreme coalition right wing that has ever existed, and it's a joke. You and I know, if intellectual integrity counts for anything, let's be honest. Likud, there are a couple of people in Likud who are wonderful, very few. But Likud, as a general comment, would be characterized as right of center. You mentioned Itamar Ben-Gvir or Bezalel Smotrich, they are considered right wing, and because they are right wing by a broader definition, they've been marginalized, they've been silenced. Itamar Ben-Gvir has no say whatsoever about who goes and who does and whatever the board of peace. It's a joke. So to answer the question, the real right wing in Israel is completely opposed to this. They think this is a terrible mistake, and it'll be viewed in history as a mistake equal to the nonsense that led people in Israel believe that the Oslo Accords were going to be peaceful because we now had a peace partner, Yasser Arafat. And instead of that fateful day, September 13th, 1993, what we did is we, Rabin and Shimon Peres, shook the hands of a mass murderer and made him kosher. And Bibi, by joining this, is basically giving license, saying, yes, we believe that this is an erstwhile effort to find peace in Gaza. This is a disaster. And I'll say something that I've often said when I lecture. Trump means well for Israel, as opposed to the previous administration, which was malicious towards Israel. Trump, in 2.5, 3 years, is going to be back golfing. He's on the golf course. And right now he's trying to reshape the world. And the thing that he's doing, beating his chest and using the United States leverage, I think is a tremendous. The way that he's intimidated Europe is a tremendous thing on those issues. But when it comes to Israel, he foolishly believes that the nations that he loves so much, Turkey and Qatar, are truly honest brokers who actually want peace in the Middle East, which would include Israel in every sense. And this is complete naivete.
Okay, now last word on, we're running out of time, but last word on the so-called technocratic Palestinian proposed government. Go ahead, Mayor.
What was underplayed, and at a future show, we can actually attack the 20 points. We can pick the 3 or 4 that are most relevant to the discussion we make and show what an absurdity is. But about 5 weeks ago, Hamas was contacted, as were representatives of the Palestinian Authority. And they were told by Turkey, sponsored by Qatar, that we are about to have this board of peace. The nations had not yet been cataloged. And we want to assure you, Hamas and the PA, that you will be well represented behind the scenes. That we will not do anything which will be injurious to the best interests of Hamas or the Palestinian Authority. That was the behind the scenes. This is known, it's known in Israel to be true. But because the PA has not been invited, because Hamas has ostensibly told people, okay, we might disarm just in order to allow this to happen, the Western world, and by the Western world I'm talking about Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, all these idiots, even as I mentioned, Lindsey Graham, who's a great friend of Israel, now supports the two states because he says, Dayenu, enough, we've got to do something. Okay, the old Hebrew expression, en brera, there is no alternative. We'll accept the two states, which would be so much more injurious to Israel's best interest than Oslo ever was. But the answer
according
to the thing about the
according to Arab polls, the majority of Arabs in Judea and Samaria, they call it the West Bank, support Hamas and want Hamas in charge. So much for this well-meaning two-state, right? Yeah.
By a significant number.
Right.
I'll do this another time. When I look at, I was going to do it last week, and maybe I'll do it next week with you, Donald. And I'll just mention it. Donald Trump in 1987 had his Art of the Deal, and there were 11 principles, 11 tactics. And I was going to I'll do this in a different session. There were three specific ones, which one could apply to his negotiating in the Middle East. And in each case, he's violated his own precepts, whatever. And the reason we do this, he means well for Israel. He supports Israel, even though every once in a while, as he did today, he needed to scold Bibi about the Iron Dome. We do this. He implied that that it was America that took care of Iran in June, not Israel. It was America that did this. It's an inflated ego, and it doesn't serve Israel well. It's sad.
100%.
Anyhow,
Meir, we're going to have to take this up. There's so much information we have to get out there, but let me thank you very much for this evening. And again, everyone, please share this on whatever social media platform that you use, and please go onto our YouTube channel and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. We need to get more subscribers to our YouTube, and then we really want to make it go in a big way. So thank you very much. And whoever wants to get involved with Israel Now, you can go on our website, israelnow.ca, or make a contribution or send us an email. You want to get involved, you want to volunteer, you want to help. Thank you very much, Meir, and we'll take it up again. Thank you.